Yo, what's up guys? Bajheera here. This video is going to be another Diablo 4 Season 8 Barbarian build update. This character has actually been a blast. I'm really enjoying the new season of D4. I haven't played in a bit, so all of this new endgame is kind of new to me. The endgame loop of farming various things to get various resources to then progress my character, gain access to the bosses, use those bosses to get better loot, run more content to upgrade that loot. It's actually really fun. I'm digging it. And the Barbarian itself has definitely been kicking some butt. I think we have like a ton of different options for the build, and I'm kind of just like using whatever drops. The game is guiding me to, whatever build we're playing next, and I'm having a good time with it. What we are doing right now is we are going from the Flamezerker, and we have become the embodiment of this insane looking transmog, the Flamezerker. So instead of trying to cast Rend and use the chain with Rupture, which I really liked, I just felt like when I was fighting bosses, getting animation locked into those things was getting me in trouble. And so I wanted something that was more smooth. And I've actually never played a Whirlwind build before. But now it's time. Now it's time. The game has led me here, and we're doing it. So what this build is doing primarily is running around, whirlwinding, doing tons of damage converted into fire damage, then getting buffed. And I guess we're kind of going back to the standard, like, just a whole bunch of shouts, but we're still using the shouts and the Wrath of the Berserker with the stomp to reduce the cooldown on the Wrath of the Berserker, and just letting it rip like that. Which is a Berserker style that I've enjoyed in the past, but now we're doing a lot of fire damage with Whirlwind, which is kind of interesting. We can take a look at the abilities, but I want to mention that, like, I was playing a version of the build that had much more HP before, and now we're going to reduce my HP for more damage, basically, and we're going to see how that works. I still think I don't take very big hits, which is great because we have the defense for that, but I think that the HP pool being a little bit lower has got me like a little bit like, but so far it's fine. Let's take a look at our skill tree and how this works. So we're only putting like 2 points in lunging strike because I don't even use it right now. Maybe against the boss, we'd like to make sure that we have enough, rage to manage that. But so far, we haven't really needed it. My rage generation is plenty, so I guess we're fine. If we needed to, though, we could just take off ground stomp and go from there. But we're using Whirlwind. I do think I have like a couple of ranks of Whirlwind in here. Yeah, I have like 2 points of Whirlwind extra. We don't need that, I guess, but I'm not 100% sure where I want to put the extra points, so I'm just chilling with Whirlwind right now. I think that we could put it in something else that would give us like, let me see. Does this actually increase our damage? Because we could do that here. Yeah, we could chuck it there, whatever. I don't know if it's 2% damage there or there, but whatever. We're doing Whirlwind. The thing I like about Whirlwind is giving us a little bit of fury whenever we hit an enemy. It's also applying a bleed for us, which works really nice for our Rage of Harrogath chest, which is going to be one of the things that's reducing our cooldowns, and we have a few of those mechanics, which is nice. I'm still using Pressure Point. I want the chance to make enemies vulnerable. If there's one big weakness with the build that's making me kind of like, about it, is I don't have a super reliable way of applying vulnerability with my current setup the way it is. We could definitely go into some weapon skills and have vulnerability be super consistent like that, but just not what we're doing at the moment. Because what we are doing is this. We're using Stomp. We are using the Strategic Ground Stomp so that it reduces the cooldown of my ultimate skills by 5 seconds for enemy damaged by Ground Stomp. So Wrath of the Berserker is up a lot. And when we're running the little Undercity of Kurost event or whatever it's called, and we have all the shrines, like, we are constantly popping off with Wrath of the Berserker. We're just using it for damage. It's pretty, like, for like the damage AoE, it's pretty funny. We're grabbing max health and damage reduction against elites just to be tanky, grabbing Rallying Cry, and we are grabbing enhanced Rallying Cry, tactical Rallying Cry just for the insta rage. That's pretty nice. I do like that. We have a ton of resource generation already, but more of it's great, and this also makes you unstoppable. And we're using the challenging shout with fury whenever we are hit during this. We're using brawling skills. We only have movement speed in there, and we have war cry For big damage buffs, I have a thing on here that makes me deal even more damage during Warcry. It's a temper. It's not really what I want, but it's just what we got, so we might put the extra points in here. We are using Warcry to grant us Berserking and to fortify us. We don't really have a whole lot of trouble maintaining Berserking either, due to the resource generation that we have, and it's the fact that the cooldowns are so short on the shout, but I'll show you what I'm talking about. We do have longer duration on the shouts, which is great. We have the debuffs on the enemies, which is great, because again, we have a lot of mechanics that are reducing the damage that we take, which is why I'm maybe thinking it's okay for now to have a smaller health pool. This is also nice. We're gaining even more damage reduction while berserking, so we have damage reduction from our shout, from the effect on enemies from the shout, and we have the damage reduction from here from elites, and then we even have more here, so this is a lot. But we did actually drop the ground, or not the ground stomp, the earthquake, granting me increased damage reduction, and I don't know how I feel about that. I kind of want to get that back, but we did it because we want to do more damage, so we're letting that ride right now. While berserking, we're also getting a bunch more fury generation, and these are coming from items, which is pretty interesting. So over here on the weapon mastery tree, we're not using any weapon mastery skills, which again, I really like Rupture. Rupture is a really good skill for this setup because the overpowers allow you to have a earthquake right underneath you, and then you can use this to also maintain really good vulnerability. It's just super nice to have, so we're gonna keep that option in our mind, but right now we're doing something different. We're doing the Flamezerker. And we're grabbing all these bonuses though, because this is still really nice. So increased damage against close enemies, damage reduction, increased crit chance is great. Dealing more damage to injured and healthy enemies. It's just nice. You hit harder when the enemies are high health and low health. So that's pretty big, right? There's like a 55% health window in the beginning of their health and at the end of their health that you're doing more damage to, which is great. That's great. We come down here for some fortify stuff. Taking direct damage isn't really a big source of fortify for us, but we do want to have the bonuses that you get when you're fortified, because we fortify frequently. We have fortification from here, which is giving us, or we have this, which is giving us more damage when we have fortify. And then when we're fortified, we also take less damage and heal, which is great too. Over here, in this side of the thing, we have heavy hitter, ultimate skills, earthquakes, and dust devils deal 45% more damage. We are using an ultimate skill that does damage, not the most damage, but we're using one. And we are using earthquakes and dust devils. We're also taking increased critical strike damage when we're using a two-hander. We are whirlwinding with a two-hander. I think whirlwinding with one-handers is probably better for this in some ways, but I just think it looks sick to use this gigantic flame sword, so that's what we're doing. And so I'm gonna take this, and that's fine. We are healing every 100 fury spent, which is great too, because we are spending fury constantly. But we're also generating a ton too. Then we have max rank and Wrath of the Berserker, mostly just to pull enemies in. I love that effect when it draws the enemies in with max rank Wrath. Its cooldown is like 40 seconds right now, but that comes down quite a bit with our stomp and with a couple different mechanics that we have. But Rage of Harrogath does bring it down too. Just tons of rage generation, extra damage, movement speed is all nice. And of course, with all this berserking we're doing, we're using Unconstrained to make berserking's damage bonus go up. And then when we're also below a certain amount of life, we are just always berserk, but we're kind of always berserk anyway. But we also gain 30% physical damage reduction as well, which is sweet. For Paragon, I'm not 100% sure about this Paragon path, but we're gonna take a look at it and we're gonna mess with it and see what we got. We're starting off, I'm grabbing all the rare and magic nodes in here for max life and armor, max life and damage, and then we're going up. I'm putting Martial here now that we're using shouts. After casting a shout skill, the active cooldown of every other non-shout skill is reduced by 2 seconds. We have 2 non-shout skills, Stomp and Wrath of Berserker. Stomp is gonna also reduce the cooldown of Wrath of Berserker, so you're kind of getting the idea here. Lots of CDR, so we are spamming like crazy. It's pretty fun. And we've got more damage and strength here, damage to elites and strength here, and both of those things are getting buffed by our Martial here, which is pretty sweet. So we're going up, and we are going into the Warbringer little node. I like Warbringer a lot. I like that it just gives you that early on way to get tons of fortification, and we have a lot of things that are related to fortify in our dealing damage and of course taking less damage. I just need to get that glyph rolling, the undaunted glyph, so we can have even more fortification. damage reduction and benefit of, you know, doing more damage with it too. But anyway, we come up here. We are grabbing Exploit early on. Having that instant application of Vulnerable is sweet. We'll grab all the extra stuff that you get in here for more damage while fortified, and just more damage and strength. And grab all the nodes that are associated with that to buff up Exploit a little bit. Then we are going to have to come up here and circle all the way around. We're taking some Fury on kill this time. We're also like very close to fire resistance max life, so it would be really easy to come get 6% max life right there. But we grab Warbringer then. We'll come over here. The next one that we're doing is Decimator. So we are making enemies vulnerable, at least while we're like blade storming around, right? Whirlwinding around. And so I think this one's okay. I think this one's all right. So I'm grabbing that one for right now. I still would like ways of making enemies more vulnerable, more reliably, but that's okay. We're coming up here real quick to grab the damage and life. We come down here to grab vuln damage and overpower damage. Overpower damage is like, we're really not getting much out of that, so I don't love this, and this is what's making me like not sure about taking this so early, but whatever. And then we're taking ire. We need to get more strength in the radius though to make it really pop off. We're not even really getting the benefit right now. But while berserking, you take 10% reduced damage from elites, which is excellent. Again, more damage reduction is sweet. You're just getting tanky, and I like that. But the reason why we're not getting as much strength in the radius is because we're still working on up here. We're also taking damage reduction from vulnerable enemies. So we're going up here. I'm trying this one out, man. This got me curious. This Force of Nature. Earthquakes have a 75% chance to spawn a Dust Devil every second that deals damage. And Earthquake damage bonus is increased by 40% of your damage versus close, which we don't have very much of, but we will as we progress up to some of these things. Eventually, we'll get damage to close. So we get more willpower, Earthquake damage goes up, Fizz damage goes up. That is a lot of Earthquake damage if we get enough willpower. So that's what we're trying to work on, I guess. And then we're doing max life and armor. And then we're going to go up towards the Earthquake duration, Dust Devil size, and eventually make our way up into more Dust Devil damage, I guess, and damage to close, which will help with the Earthquake thing. I might just grab all of this, and then we'll probably just transition up into here, and then I don't know what we're doing next. We got some options. Who knows? Berserking could be okay because we're like Berserk forever, and we'll crit frequently, which is nice. Overpower could be useful to us in a variety of ways, because if we're not really overpowering very frequently, then we might want to do that, right? But also we have this overpower, your ultimate skills deal more, right? So Wrath of the Berserker, it doesn't really do that much damage on its own, but I don't know, it's a possibility. We could do whirlwind stuff here, right? This is some, we're looking for like close damage. This is attack speed, it's kind of fun. Weapon Master, we're not really using this too much, so who knows, man, who knows? I'd love the bleeding one, but we're not really doing much bleeding, so it could be, we don't really need Blood Rage. It could be going for Carnage. That could be kind of fun. We'll think about that one. Bone Breaker could be cool too, but we'll see. We will see. Wait, we got to fill out these first. We're at Paragon 160, which is cool, so we're getting there. Lots to talk about, so let's keep it moving. We are going to go through the gear now, because the way that you build out a Diablo character is like your skill tree. I still mess with my skill tree a ton just to find out like what feels good to play in terms of my skill setup. But then what actually makes your character strong, what actually determines how it like is built out and scales, comes from your gear a lot too. Because you have uniques and you have legendaries. And now we're pretty unique heavy right now, but we'll take a look at what we're doing. So I have the ugly bastard helm right now, which is giving me Wrath of the Berserker cooldown, but it's also giving me the Prolific Fury and Aggressive Resistance. Those are the resource generation while you're Berserk, and damage reduction while you're Berserk. And then it also gives you casting Wrath of the Berserker, causes you to explode, dealing fire damage. While Berserking, your direct damage dealt is converted to fire, and we're kind of always Berserk. So we are always converting all of our direct damage to fire. Whirlwind, Dust Devils, Earthquake are all direct damage. But then you also deal 100% increased fire damage, right? So that's pretty cool. Because we are doing a lot of damage conversion and damage, and then fire damage buff. So keep that in mind. We're using the Rage of Harrogath chest, which is giving us various bonuses, damage over time, crit chance, life, damage reduction from bleeding enemies, all really cool. But on lucky hit, inflicting bleeding on an enemy has up to a, potentially 60% chance to reduce the cooldown of your skills by 1 second. So this is a very low roll, and it's still on lucky hit. but still very cool to bring those cooldowns down, which is nice. And then we are using Neotech. So I was trying to think, like, how can I get a better way of doing earthquakes if I'm not basic attacking? And I haven't found the runes that either give you activation on Fury Spent or like the storing of one. People like that one too. So I'm just saying, I very rarely actually take damage to my health. So if we avoid health damage while fighting for 2 seconds, then we generate a bunch of like offering or whatever, and then we drop earthquakes like every 2 seconds or whatever, which feels pretty good. So that's what we're doing right now. I'll show you in the run how that looks. And then we're using Gore's Devastating Grips. This is something that I feel like we could probably not use, but I'm giving it a try because it gives us a bunch of ranks to Whirlwind. It makes Whirlwind do fire damage explosions, and I'm like, okay, let's give it a try. We have critical strike against close enemies, movement speed, attack speed, so you are zooming with this. And these are good for Whirlwind. I don't know if they're still good, but it fits the build. We're doing fire damage, we're Whirlwinding, let's see how it goes. I'm still using Tacits of the Dawning Sky. It's hard to get rid of these. I like these. They're giving me all stats, movement speed, max res, all res, and then when you take damage from any kind of like elemental, you gain max res to that element, which is crazy. Then I'm using this with casting 5 skills, then become exhausted. I'm not 100% sure how that even works, but it's like, it's proccing, it says exhausted sometimes, and then it gives me +3 all skills, which is nuts. So yeah, we're using that for sure. Then we're using Rakanoth's Wake for movement speed, more fire damage than non-physical damage, which is more fire and more poison. Remember, our build is, let's not forget how hard carried we're getting by the Ashava poison boss power. That's huge for my single target. But we also get the CDR. When you explode, dealing fire damage whenever you use a skill with a cooldown, which is like all of our shouts. Everything that we do except for Whirlwind is a skill with a cooldown. So we're exploding with fire damage constantly. We're buffing the non-physical damage again, right? So we have all of it converted to fire, doing little fire whirlwinds. We're buffing our non-physical damage, so we're buffing our fire damage, which is crazy. Now down here, we are doing Ground Stomp, creates an earthquake. We actually are using Ground Stomp now, but the main thing is our earthquakes are dealing more damage, and we do more damage after standing in an earthquake, and the earthquakes do more damage too. It's like, okay, that sounds pretty good. You combine that with, while above 40 Fury, you're Berserk. So you're constantly Berserk. You do lose Fury per second. And I was using a resource ring that gave me Fury per second while I was Berserk. I took that off to try the Shout with the Dust Devils instead. We're gonna see how that feels. If it feels really bad for my rage generation, then I might go back, but we'll see. We are also generating Dust Devils with Whirlwind. The main thing about this one is that enemies hit by Dust Devils take more damage. So having this, like making Whirlwind Dust Devils do more damage, like on a two-hander, is not that important. We just want the effect that it makes it just make Dust Devils do more damage. I also, you'll notice I learned about masterworking, so I'm like, oh snap, I should be doing that. So we're masterworking our stuff now, which is a really fun endgame grind. Just making your guys stronger. For this bad boy, we've got Earthquakes deal more damage, and their damage is converted into fire. So the thing is, all of our damage is already converted into fire when we're Berserk, but this also makes our Earthquakes deal a lot more damage, so that's kind of cool. And it's scaling, you know, if we didn't have everything on fire already, it is now scaling our things into fire with the physical damage, and our fire damage is increased too, right? So this might be unnecessary, but I think the Earthquake increased damage is pretty nice, but we could put something else there if we had to, because I think everything is already getting converted to fire anyway. So on our rings, we are using the Bold Chieftain to give us cooldown reduction on shouts, which is sweet. This is what I'm talking about right here. Sorry. We switch this over. The overpower spawns earthquakes and then makes you do more damage per strength. This aspect got nerfed, but I mean, I haven't even reached the max that it can be, so it's still good for me. And this is buffing our earthquake damage by more. And then on the necklace, this is where we have the shout skills, create Dust Devils, and Dust Devils are larger and deal increased damage for each 1% their size increase. And we're gonna have on our Paragon a couple ways of increasing the size of those Dust Devils. So I thought this one would be cool on neck because it actually does have some scaling. This one does not need to be anywhere because the scaling that we're getting is static. Okay, so one last thing before we go do some gameplay is we've got Ashava's Poison Breath hard carrying us with huge amounts of dot damage. We're buffing that dot damage with Andariel's Flaming Skull. We are using our our power to periodically execute low health enemies, granting us primary resource, which is great for Fury Gen. And then we're using the Fortify, gains 25% of the amount as barrier. So we constantly are fortified up, and so we are constantly barriered up. So it's really hard to take health damage, which is why it's okay to use this one, where you avoid health damage while fighting for 2 seconds. So just proccing earthquakes all the time. It ends up feeling really, really good. Let's go do a pit run, and we'll take a look at how the build functions. I kind of want to do the Kurast run because those are really fast and fun, but I think a pit run is a little bit more of a like a unbuffed with shrines constantly look at how the build performs. I think it's doing all right. Let's have a look. All right, we will dive into the pit in a second. I realize I glossed over the tempering a little bit. So I have this buff with poison damage, and that's fine, but I think damage while berserking is more safe at this point, just because it'll buff everything. But the poison damage is okay. It's okay. But I think it also like masterworked the poison damage, so it's kind of awkward for me to take it off now. But damage while berserking would be better, especially because our earthquakes and stuff are actually maybe starting to deal damage. But in general, we're looking at earthquake duration, and poison damage is okay, but I mean, I think I want damage while berserking now. Like this one, we tried to get that, and it gave me Warcry, which is whatever. Earthquake duration again, and then going for the berserking stuff is good, I think. So this one did the same thing. It was earthquake duration and then poison damage. It's kind of whatever. Damage while berserking would be better. This one, same thing. It was earthquake duration, but then it was Wrath of Berserker damage, which is also like, dude, can we get the damage while berserking, please? Like this one. So this one got damage while berserking, resource generation. This one is damage while berserking, resource cost reduction.
Hello.
I think generation is better because spending resource is good. So just generating a lot of it and then spending a lot of it is fine. This one is damage while berserking with earthquake size, which is fun. On armor, I think it was like just for the utility, it's the same thing, like earthquake duration. But now we're using all these uniques, so we don't have that. Okay, here we go. 45. Is that the highest tier that I can do? I mean, we can show. Let's show the beginning of Torment 3, just so we don't like awkwardly get one shot or something like that. Because I don't think I've done a 45 yet. 40, I think that we're kind of chilling on. We'll have a look. Again, this is my first pit of the day, so let's see if we got what it takes. See if we can get warmed up. But all in all, you are whirlwinding, shouting. It looks like my Fury is fine. We're stomping to keep the cooldown of Wrath of Berserker a little bit lower. Just kind of zooming around, letting the shouts rip, proccing everything, and just blasting. So, again, I like Rend a lot, but there comes a time where you just take a look at what like this sort of setup is capable of, and you're like, yeah. Okay, I guess we're gonna have to go for the shouts and just whirlwind around, I guess. But like we don't really take damage, so the earthquakes are proccing on the ground. We're dust deviling like crazy, which is debuffing enemies, but also dealing damage. What kind of shrine is this one? Okay, so this is if we had like Giga Crit. This is what it would look like. Good to know, right? Crit's pretty solid. In terms of my followers, right now I'm just ranking up followers, so I don't actually even really know like what would be ideal. We're just letting them, but this little guy does fire damage, and sometimes he turns into a demon, so I think that's kind of like a cool synergy thematically with the build. But yeah, you just have your Wrath of Berserker pulling all the enemies in. But it's funny because we're like, I think we used to just only do damage to the poison, it felt like, but now we're actually starting to deal damage with like our build. Like our character is hitting enemies and numbers are popping up, and it's like, oh, I think those are actually chunking these guys. But of course the poison is still like super hard carrying for a single target. We got to keep an eye out on that Fury generation. Once we get a better ring though, I think the Dust Devils are doing work. I definitely want Dust Devils on the shouts, because you do shout a ton and then you just like spew Dust Devils everywhere. And we're going to be scaling them, so I kind of want to make use of them. Yeah, when their health just gets completely consumed by damage over time, that's the poison. So that's juicy. I would love to have like Berserk Ripping in this build, but we're just using so many uniques right now to scale that fire damage that it's like we don't really have some of those cool just normal legendary affixes that I usually like. But whatever. It's all good because we're blasting through. it's again, it's really hard to beat this the speed and smoothness of Whirlwind. And with the combination of cooldown reduction we have from Marshall, Rage of Haragath, it's just speed city. So against the boss, things can kind of get weird if you don't have like enough rage generation. But we seem to be doing okay with rage. Like when hitting a big mob, you get 4, you know, fury, so it's all good. We're pumping, we're pumping. That looked pretty smooth. I like that. So we're only using these glyphs right now. I'm still thinking that disembowel could be kind of fun. Killing a bleeding enemy has a chance to reduce the cooldowns of your non-ultimates, but Weapon Master, we also level that up. The ones that we were working on, we could do Earthquake ones too, right? Doing 3% increased damage to bosses and CC'd enemies for each active Earthquake does seem kind of nuts. We are using a two-handed sword because that could be kind of fun. I might chuck some points in Undaunted, just because I want that to be up there. Oh, Territorial would be cool too. See, this would be really nice to. Should I just put 1 point on that, and then Wrath could be cool too, crit damage, and then Undaunted. I'm just gonna put points in these just so I can like have them bumped up a little bit. But yeah, close damage would be nice for scaling our Earthquakes like crazy, wouldn't it? Even though we're not always hitting targets in actual close range, so we have some options. I just don't know how many of these we're even gonna get access to, but more damage reduction per Fortify seems pretty fun, so I'll get that going. That's one of my favorites anyway. I wonder, I mean, we're gonna be hammering this later today. We gotta get more willpower, but I mean, let's try a 45, I guess. That seemed kind of quick, didn't it? I mean, 55 is tier 4. I don't think we're quite there yet, but we can see how the build performs. I mean, I think it actually may even get stronger when there's more enemies around, because you kind of get your your dusters going a little bit like more consistently. Enemies are getting hit and having bleed applied to them more consistently, so you actually get the cooldown reduction a little bit more consistently. It's kind of wild, and that felt very, very smooth. But it's fun. I'm having a really good time with Diablo in general. I feel like the endgame loop is pretty fun. You kind of just it looks like there's like some content that is. Oh, okay, that hit me pretty hard. We didn't have Fortify going yet. We got to get that. But it looks like we're still proccing Earthquake sometimes. Yeah, my health pool is definitely not much. So there's going to become a time where we're going to start getting smacked, I think. But if we have the Fortify and the Barrier, we should be chilling. But I think there's certain content that's particularly good for farming certain things. But for the most part, it kind of seems to me like you kind of just do what you want, and you kind of, as long as you're doing stuff, you're making gains. So you just kind of like, all right, well, I did Helltide for a while. I kind of want to go run some Undercity of Kurast. I was like, all right, I've been farming for a little bit. Let's go hit the pit, you know, upgrade my glyphs. And everything that you do progresses your character in some way. So as long as you're doing stuff, I think you're kind of making gains. And that's a good feeling. It's not quite as like straightforward as D3 in terms of just like hammering your Paragon and getting main stat, but it doesn't really feel like that far off in terms of just like smoothness. So you find a build that you like and just hammer it. And so far that's what we're doing. But I will say that our build has changed a lot. We've done a couple different iterations of this, but I think that we're doing something that works, right? I think people are telling me that they nerfed Earthquake from what it was, but it still seems very good. We're actually doing damage with Whirlwind a bit. But Earthquake definitely still seems to be like a good like damage buff. It's dealing a little bit of damage to enemies, I think, for me. Once we get up to the high enough like torment or whatever, like the mobs get powerful enough, I think we do sort of end up being back in that situation where the only thing that actually puts a dent in their health bar is the actual poison. But I think at this point we're not there. So this will be another little step up for us in terms of being able to farm a 45. So we get the glyph upgrades a little bit more reliably, and a little bit more XP and whatnot. I don't know if it's going to be a big loot difference. I don't know if pit is really something that you farm for loot. I get the feeling that it's probably more just for upgrading your glyphs, but who knows, man. We are going to have a lot of boss runs, and if we eventually can be strong enough to kill bosses at tier 3, that's a pretty big deal. I think tier 3 bosses right now are not the best thing for me to do. But maybe it's better now that we have a little bit more damage. I think the Dust Devils are helping the damage a bit. Ooh, this will be fun. This is some unethical demonstration here, though. But I mean, like, there comes a time where you just got to accept what the game is giving you. And right now the game's saying, all right, dude, time to play some Whirlwind. And I feel like if we weren't so heavily invested in poison damage in particular, and we were just now doing damage while berserking, because before for me it was like, well, we'd either do poison damage or we do bleed. But now that we've really sort of come into the full bleed zerker mode, where we're constantly berserk, we're constantly like scaling all of our damage through fire and buffing the non-elemental or non-physical damage we're doing. So we're buffing the fire and poison damage, and we can scale both of those through damage while berserking. It's like, okay, I think we're just gonna send it with the full-on Flamezerker mode. But also thematically, it fits my character because look at the transmog. We've made a whole build just for this cool transmog, but it's working. So the plan for today is gonna be doing my thing, gonna be chilling with my boy, and then we're gonna fire up the stream, probably around between like 4:35 p.m. PST. Fire up that evening stream and send it. All right, let's not get one-shotted by her because I think she can do some nasty one-shot stuff to me. But I think for bossing, as long as we stay close to the boss and we continue to stack our poison debuff on her, we should be fine. And I'm very happy to see that my fury generation seems to be sufficient. That's good. Stun her up, and I mean, as long as I can kind of stay close and keep them dusters rolling, she seems to be taking good damage from earthquake. And yeah, cool. All right, for 45 is good and farmable too, looks like. Nice. That's new for me. I don't know, maybe, I mean, let's not get too crazy, but T4 may be in our future, perhaps. Damage to elites would be excellent. 18% damage to elites is awesome. Rumble is cool, like I said. I like Undaunted. I really like the damage reduction, but I mean, how many earthquakes do we really proc? The scaling on it's kind of crazy. For every 5 strength purchased within the range, your earthquakes deal 16.7% more damage. I mean, is that not nuts? I don't know. Maybe we should start working on that. Is that not insane? That's gonna be so much extra damage on earthquake. Whatever, dude. Whatever. Anyway, we're gonna be on stream today, blasting this build. I imagine that the Flamezerker will probably be what we do for a while, and then maybe we'll change it up. I think one of the main things that's gonna happen is we are just gonna need to not have so many uniques on. And I think this is probably the first on the chopping block, but so far it's fun. Right now, if we don't need to be tankier, then we can absolutely enjoy the attack speed, movement speed, crit chance, and fire explosions. But yeah, that's my guy right now. Having a blast with it. So far, so fun. Looking forward to playing more later today on the stream. 46k attack power. What the heck is going on with that? Wait, what? Okay. That looks ridiculous, but I don't know what's up with that. Anyway, I didn't have a potion on. We don't need one, bro. Ethical demonstration. But yeah, we'll keep it pumping. I'm having a blast with Diablo. Really appreciate you guys tuning into the stream. Stream's been going good. Video's been going good. And if I'm having fun and you guys are enjoying the content, that is the gamer content creator nirvana right there. So we'll keep it going later today on stream. I'll keep you guys posted on how the build's going over time. Thanks for watching. Be sure to show the video some love if you enjoy it. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.